What if one of the most misunderstood foods in your kitchen has been unfairly blamed for years, while the real problem was never the food itself, but the way it was being eaten? For decades, millions of adults over 50 were told to be careful with eggs. Too much cholesterol, too heavy, bad for the heart, not ideal for blood sugar. So people replaced them with cereal, toast, instant oatmeal, fruit juice, granola bars, and low-fat breakfast products that looked healthy on the label, but often left them hungry and tired just a few hours later. And here's what makes this conversation so important. Many adults trying to manage type 2 diabetes or stubborn blood sugar numbers are working incredibly hard. They're reading labels, watching portions, taking medications exactly as prescribed. But despite all that effort, they still wake up exhausted, still crash in the afternoon, still feel frustrated every time they check their glucose meter. And sometimes the answer isn't a complicated supplement or an extreme diet. Sometimes it starts with understanding breakfast differently. Over the years, researchers and health experts have continued studying nutrition, metabolism, aging, and blood sugar regulation in adults over 50. And one thing continues to stand out again and again. The first meal of the day affects far more than most people realize. Not just energy, not just hunger, but blood sugar stability, cravings, mental clarity, and even how the body responds to food later in the day. Today I want to have a calm, honest conversation about eggs, what current science says about them, why they may support steadier blood sugar for many adults, and most importantly, the small mistakes people make around eggs that quietly cancel out many of their benefits. And stay with me until the end, because I'm also going to share one evening habit involving eggs that many adults say helped them notice steadier morning glucose readings over time. But before we begin, I'd love to know something simple. How many eggs do you usually eat in a week? Every day? A few times a week? Or almost never? Leave a comment below because I always enjoy hearing different breakfast routines from people watching around the world. Now let's start with the biggest misunderstanding about blood sugar and breakfast. Many people still believe diabetes is only about avoiding sugar. But the deeper issue is often insulin resistance. The body may still be producing insulin, sometimes plenty of it, but the cells stop responding efficiently to the signal. Think of it like trying to unlock a door with a key that no longer turns smoothly. And this matters because breakfast strongly influences how hard the body has to work during the morning hours. A breakfast loaded with refined carbohydrates creates a rapid rise in glucose. The body scrambles to respond, insulin levels rise sharply, then energy often crashes a few hours later. That cycle repeats day after day, but protein behaves differently. Protein digests more slowly, it creates steadier energy, and it generally produces a far gentler effect on blood sugar compared to refined carbohydrates. Eggs happen to be one of the most efficient protein foods available. Affordable, simple, quick to prepare, and naturally very low in carbohydrates. 2 eggs contain high-quality, complete protein and very little impact on blood sugar by themselves. That surprises many people because eggs were blamed for so long. But modern nutrition science has become much more nuanced. Researchers now pay much closer attention to the overall dietary pattern instead of focusing only on one food in isolation. And for many adults, the issue was never the egg itself. It was the breakfast surrounding it. White toast, sugary coffee, hash browns, pancakes, pastries, sweetened yogurt, juice. Suddenly, a stable protein source becomes part of a meal that overwhelms blood sugar balance before the day even begins. Now let's talk honestly about cholesterol because many people still feel nervous here. Years ago, dietary cholesterol was heavily blamed for heart problems, so eggs became a target. But newer research suggests the relationship is more complicated than people once believed. For many adults, ultra-processed foods, excessive sugar intake, inactivity, and chronic inflammation may play a much larger role in metabolic and cardiovascular health than moderate egg consumption itself. That does not mean everyone should eat unlimited eggs. Every person's health situation is unique. But for many adults, eggs can absolutely fit into a balanced lifestyle, focused on steadier energy and long-term wellness. Consider the example of a woman we'll call Linda. Linda was 72 years old and deeply committed to doing everything right. Every morning she prepared what she believed was the ideal healthy breakfast: instant oatmeal, banana slices, honey, orange juice, sometimes a bran muffin. She honestly thought she was helping herself, but by late morning she often felt shaky, tired, and mentally foggy. When she checked her glucose after breakfast, the numbers were much higher than she expected. She decided to try a small experiment for 2 weeks. Instead of beginning the day with mostly carbohydrates, she switched to a breakfast centered around protein and fiber: 2 eggs, spinach, tomatoes, half an avocado, water or unsweetened tea. Nothing extreme, nothing expensive. And the change surprised her. Her morning hunger became calmer, her energy lasted longer, and her after-breakfast glucose readings became far steadier. What changed was not magic, it was digestion speed. Her body was no longer flooded with rapidly absorbed carbohydrates first thing in the morning. And this is where many people begin noticing improvement, not perfection, improvement. Now let's talk about preparation, because this matters more than people think. The healthiest egg meal is often the simplest one. Boiled eggs are excellent. Poached eggs are excellent. Soft scrambled eggs work beautifully too, especially when cooked gently. Many restaurant-style breakfasts contain huge amounts of added fats, processed meats, sodium, and refined carbohydrates. That changes the entire picture completely. The goal is not turning breakfast into a heavy, greasy meal. The goal is building a balanced meal that supports steadier energy and better fullness throughout the morning. One strategy many people find helpful is preparing hard-boiled eggs ahead of time. Simple habits matter. When healthy food becomes convenient, people are much more likely to stay consistent. And consistency matters far more than perfection. Now let's talk about what pairs best with eggs, because this is where many people unknowingly help or hurt their blood sugar response. Vegetables are one of the best additions possible: spinach, peppers, tomatoes, mushrooms, onions. These foods add fiber, nutrients, and volume without dramatically increasing glucose levels. Avocado is another excellent option. Its healthy fats help slow digestion and increase satiety, helping many people stay comfortably full much longer after breakfast. And that matters because stable fullness often means less snacking later. Less snacking often means steadier glucose throughout the day. Now compare that to a breakfast of toast and jam or sugary cereal. Many people feel hungry again within 2 hours. That's not a failure of willpower, that's biology. Rapidly digested foods tend to create rapid hunger afterward. And unfortunately, that cycle often repeats itself all day long. One of the biggest hidden issues is juice. Even juice labeled natural or no added sugar can contain a large amount of quickly absorbed sugar without the fiber found in whole fruit. Whole fruit behaves differently because fiber slows absorption. Juice removes much of that protection. And another thing many people overlook: sweet coffee drinks, flavored creamers, sugar syrups, large sweetened lattes. Some morning drinks contain more sugar than dessert. Again, the issue isn't the egg. It's the breakfast environment surrounding it. If you're still here with me right now, type breakfast in the comments so I know you're following along. Now let's talk about something many people never hear explained clearly: the dawn phenomenon. If you've ever woken up with unexpectedly high blood sugar despite not eating overnight, this may sound familiar. In the early morning hours, the body naturally releases hormones designed to prepare you for waking up. Part of that process involves releasing stored glucose from the liver into the bloodstream. For people without insulin resistance, the body usually handles this efficiently. But for many adults with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, morning blood sugar rises more noticeably. Now here's the important part. What you eat for breakfast can either intensify that morning rise or help calm it down. A high-sugar breakfast layered on top of that natural glucose release often pushes numbers even higher. But a protein-centered breakfast usually creates a much steadier response. That's why many adults notice they feel dramatically different after switching from cereal or toast to eggs and vegetables in the morning. And timing matters too. For many people, eating a balanced protein-rich breakfast within the first hour after waking helps create a steadier rhythm throughout the morning. Skipping breakfast entirely sometimes backfires because stress hormones continue rising while the body remains without balance fuel. And now let's talk about something even more interesting. Some adults actually notice steadier fasting blood sugar when they include eggs at dinner a few times per week instead of heavy evening carbohydrates. That may sound strange at first, but metabolically it makes sense. Consider the example of a man we'll call Robert. Robert was 67, retired, active, and extremely frustrated by one specific problem. His fasting morning glucose stayed stubbornly high no matter what he did during the day. His lunch was reasonable. His activity level was good. He even ate eggs for breakfast already. But when his evening routine was examined more carefully, the pattern became obvious. Large bowls of pasta, bread with dinner, late-night cereal while watching television. His body was spending the entire night processing heavy carbohydrate loads. So he tried a simple experiment. 3 nights per week, replace the heavy carbohydrate dinner with a lighter meal centered around protein and vegetables. Sometimes an omelet with spinach, mushrooms, and peppers. Sometimes eggs with salad and avocado. Sometimes eggs alongside roasted vegetables. No dramatic dieting, no starvation. Just a different evening routine. Within several weeks, his morning glucose readings became noticeably lower and more stable. Again, not because eggs are magical, but because the overnight glucose pattern had changed. The body was no longer dealing with the same late-night carbohydrate burden. And this highlights something important. Food timing matters more with age. The body simply processes heavy evening meals differently after 50 or 60 than it did decades earlier. Now let's go through several common egg mistakes that quietly interfere with blood sugar stability. Mistake number 1, throwing away the yolk. Many people still believe the egg white is the only healthy part, but the yolk contains valuable nutrients, including choline, vitamin D, lutein, and other compounds important for brain, eye, and nerve health. Unless your doctor has specifically advised otherwise, many adults benefit from eating the whole egg. Mistake number 2, pairing eggs with highly processed breakfast meats every single day. Bacon, sausage, and heavily processed meats often contain large amounts of sodium and preservatives. Occasional use is one thing. Building an entire breakfast routine around processed meats is another. Mistake number 3, adding too many refined carbohydrates alongside the eggs. Croissants, biscuits, sweet pastries, large portions of white bread. At that point, the eggs become nutritionally overshadowed by the glucose load surrounding them. Mistake number 4, eating too little protein overall. This is incredibly common in older adults. Some people eat only toast or fruit for breakfast and then wonder why they feel weak, shaky, or hungry before lunch. Protein helps support muscle maintenance, fullness, and steadier energy as we age. Mistake number 5, believing healthy eating must be complicated or expensive. One of the most powerful things about eggs is their simplicity. They're accessible, affordable, easy to prepare, and highly versatile. Sometimes the best health habits are also the most practical. Now let's talk briefly about appetite because this matters enormously after 60. Many adults struggle with constant cravings and assume they simply lack discipline. But often the issue is unstable blood sugar and inadequate protein intake earlier in the day. A breakfast built mostly around refined carbohydrates tends to digest quickly. Blood sugar rises, then falls, and when it falls, cravings appear. But protein and fiber digest more slowly. That slower digestion often creates steadier energy and more comfortable fullness for hours afterward. This is one reason many adults report fewer cravings after switching to protein-centered breakfasts. not because they are forcing themselves to eat less, but because the body feels more satisfied naturally. Now let's briefly mention muscle health because this becomes increasingly important with age. After 50, adults naturally begin losing muscle mass gradually over time, and protein intake plays a major role in helping maintain strength and mobility. Eggs provide high-quality protein that supports muscle maintenance, especially when combined with regular movement appropriate for your ability level. That matters enormously for independence and quality of life later on. Now here's one simple breakfast framework many people find helpful. Start with 2 eggs, add vegetables, spinach, tomatoes, peppers, mushrooms. Include healthy fats like avocado if desired. Drink water, black coffee or unsweetened tea. If you include bread, choose smaller portions of dense, high-fiber whole grain bread instead of highly refined white bread. Simple, balanced, real food, and importantly, sustainable. Because the best eating plan is not the most extreme one. It's the one you can realistically continue for years. Now, before we finish, I want to say something important. Managing blood sugar can become emotionally exhausting. Many adults feel discouraged, confused, overwhelmed by constantly changing nutrition advice. One year, a food is considered healthy. The next year, it's considered unhealthy. That frustration is understandable. But instead of chasing extremes, focus on patterns that consistently support your body. More protein, more fiber, less ultra-processed food, more stable meals, fewer dramatic glucose swings. Those principles remain surprisingly consistent across modern nutrition research, and small changes repeated daily often matter far more than dramatic short-term diets people abandon after 2 weeks. So tomorrow morning, before automatically reaching for cereal, pastries, or juice, pause for a moment. Ask yourself one question. Will this breakfast keep me steady or send me on a roller coaster? Because the first meal of the day often shapes everything that follows afterward. Now tell me in the comments, what does your usual breakfast look like right now? I genuinely enjoy reading your experiences, and your comment may help someone else realize they're not alone in their own health journey. And if this video helped you understand your body a little more clearly today, press the like button and share it with someone who may benefit from hearing this information. Take care of yourself, stay consistent, and I'll see you in the next video.